It was at a party, in 2000. I think I was slightly merry.
We live in thankfully, a free country.
What was supposed to be Prince William's flawless night reportedly spiraled out of control when Queen Camilla's son made a surprise move no one expected. The alleged drama had jaws dropping across the palace. Curious yet? Keep watching and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the details. The night was meant to be flawless. Prince William's charity event had everything you'd expect: glittering chandeliers, perfectly polished silverware, and a guest list filled with high society's finest. Every detail spoke of elegance and control. But then something happened that no planner could have prepared for. Whispers spread like wildfire the moment Tom Parker walked in. He wasn't on the guest list, and yet there he was, smiling as though he belonged, shaking hands, mingling as if it were his event. Some guests exchanged polite nods, others looked confused, but one thing was certain: everyone was asking the same silent question: why is he here? It didn't take long for the tension to spread through the room. While the orchestra played soft music and champagne flowed, curiosity turned into suspicion. Some guests leaned closer to each other, whispering. Others kept their eyes fixed on Tom, trying to figure out what game he was playing. And while no one said it out loud, the feeling was clear. This wasn't just an unexpected arrival, it was the beginning of something far bigger. Something that would pull the spotlight away from Prince William's carefully planned night and shine it on someone who was never supposed to be there. To understand why Tom's presence caused such a stir, you have to know his story. Tom wasn't born into royal blood, but through his mother's marriage, he carried the name that gave him access to places others could only dream of. Still, his life had been anything but smooth. At one time, Tom was well known as a sharp food critic, the kind of person who could make or break a restaurant with a single review. He lived in a world of fine dining, where every dish was a performance and every detail mattered. But things had changed. His restaurant investment collapsed, costing him more than money. It cost him credibility. A cookbook he poured energy into barely sold. And soon creditors were on his heels, pushing him into a corner. From the outside, he still had the name, the face, and the connection, but behind that, cracks were starting to show. This was no fairy tale comeback. Instead, it was the story of a man who'd been at the top and was now grasping for a way back up. Which made one thing clear: Tom's sudden appearance at William's event wasn't just a coincidence, it was a move. But the real question was, what kind of move? Behind the palace walls, something unusual was happening. Queen Camilla had been spotted making frequent, hushed phone calls, conversations that lasted much longer than her usual quick check-ins. Aides noticed her stepping into quiet corners, her voice low, her tone urgent. And while no one dared to ask, they could sense something was brewing. The answer came when Camilla approached Charles with a request that wasn't really a request at all. She wanted Tom to have a role within royal initiatives, not just as a guest or an observer, but as someone officially involved. Her reasoning seemed practical. Tom's background in food could be valuable for campaigns centered on British cuisine. Charles hesitated. He knew the risk. Bringing in someone with a shaky reputation could backfire. But Camilla wasn't just suggesting, she was insisting. Her voice carried both determination and a mother's plea. She wanted her son to have dignity, to rebuild himself, and most importantly, to silence the whispers around his failures. It wasn't an easy decision for Charles, but in the end, he agreed. Tom would join the New Taste of Britain campaign, a project designed to celebrate local food and support underfunded communities. For Camilla, it was a win. For William, it was something else entirely. From the very start, William sensed something was wrong. On the surface, Tom played his part well, smiling, nodding, and sitting quietly in meetings. But William noticed details others overlooked. Tom wasn't asking questions about recipes or ingredients. Instead, he was interested in guest lists, security arrangements, and financial documents. Whenever someone mentioned behind-the-scenes logistics, his eyes lit up. Whenever confidential details were shared, he leaned in closer. For William, this wasn't just curiosity. It felt calculated. He had seen people try to use access before, and something about Tom's behavior rang alarms. He didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, he filed the suspicion away, watching carefully, waiting for a clearer picture to form. Deep down, William knew one thing for certain. This wasn't about food. Something else was driving Tom. And if William was right, it wouldn't just be a small problem. It would be a disaster waiting to unfold. It wasn't long before others began to feel it too. Staffers who had worked in the palace for years sensed that something was off. Tom seemed too eager, too fast. Within 2 weeks, he knew everyone's name. He knew which assistant handled invitations, who managed access to restricted rooms, and even who kept the keys to archives. It wasn't normal. It wasn't natural. And while no one dared say it out loud, they whispered behind closed doors. Something about Tom's charm felt rehearsed, like he wasn't just making friends, he was collecting information. Then came the nights at a small cafe in Knightsbridge. Tom was spotted meeting a middle-aged man with gray hair. Their conversations looked casual, just coffee and light talk. But then envelopes appeared on the table, and a day later, money quietly showed up in Tom's bank account. It was too neat, too suspicious. And though the palace didn't have the full story yet, the whispers were getting louder. Something was happening beneath the surface, and it wasn't good. The first signs of trouble came quietly. A menu here, a supplier name there. Details that seemed small, almost insignificant. But within days, those details appeared in gossip columns, written as exclusives, framed as inside scoops. The royal kitchens were confused. How could the press know things that hadn't even been finalized on official schedules? Event planners scratched their heads, wondering how confidential plans had slipped out. At first, it was brushed off as coincidence. Maybe someone had overheard something. Maybe a vendor had talked. But then it happened again and again. Every time, the information was just specific enough to confirm it came from inside. For William, it wasn't a mystery. His instincts pointed in one direction. And though he had no hard evidence yet, he was convinced. Tom was at the center of it all. William decided it was time to move, but instead of confronting Tom directly, he turned to the few people he trusted most. 3 loyal aides who had served the palace for years. They weren't looking for attention or recognition. They were there for loyalty, for service, for the family itself. Together, they built a quiet web of surveillance. Nothing invasive, but enough to track movements, note meetings, and record patterns. Every detail was logged and delivered straight to William. It didn't take long for a pattern to emerge. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Tom left the palace and didn't go home. Instead, he met the same man in the same cafe. Each time, there was an envelope. Each time, his bank account showed unexplained deposits. The signs were obvious, but William knew he needed more. He needed something that would erase all doubt, something undeniable. And soon he would get exactly that. The breakthrough came with footage from a hotel's private security camera. There was Tom, clearly visible, accepting a paper bag in an underground parking lot. No excuses, no way to explain it away. He then drove home, lights blazing late into the night, sorting through what witnesses later described as stacks of money. Meanwhile, his life began to change. Debts disappeared almost overnight. Creditors stopped calling. His rent was suddenly paid on time, and his wardrobe upgraded to sharp, tailored suits that gave him an air of control. He walked the palace halls with new confidence, smiling as though he had finally turned his luck around. But while he thought he was winning, the truth was different. Every step he took, every folder he opened, every meeting he attended, William's team had it tracked. The evidence was stacking up piece by piece, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. Inside the palace, Camilla saw none of this. To her, Tom's presence was a source of pride. For once, her son was engaged, respected, even praised in passing. Staff gave polite nods, meetings ran smoothly, and to her, this looked like redemption. She believed her son was finally on the right path, proving himself to the world and silencing critics. She clung to the idea that this was his second chance. But William saw it differently. He didn't just have a suspicion anymore, he had proof. And while Camilla's faith blinded her, William knew the truth would soon break, whether the family was ready or not. The breaking point came suddenly. A full VIP guest list for the upcoming Taste of Britain Gala appeared online. Not just names, but contact details and seat assignments. It was a massive breach, and the consequences were immediate. Politicians pulled out of the event, donors questioned their involvement, and palace staff scrambled to control the chaos. The media had a field day, publishing headlines that painted the event as sloppy and insecure. For William, this was the moment. He couldn't hold back any longer. With the gala looming, he knew he had to act. Not tomorrow, not later, but now. William scheduled a private meeting with Charles, just the two of them. He laid everything out: photos of cafe meetings, financial records, surveillance logs, even the hotel footage. Charles sat in silence, absorbing every detail. His face grew heavier with each piece of evidence. Finally, William presented the voice recording. Tom's voice, unmistakable, promising delivery of confidential information in exchange for payment. Charles leaned back, weary. He asked if William was certain, though he already knew the answer. William nodded firmly. Just then, Camilla entered the room. She spotted the open dossier and froze. Her eyes moved from Charles to William, searching their faces. "What is this?" she asked. William didn't hesitate. He explained, calm, direct, with no room for doubt. Camilla slammed the file shut, accusing him of making it personal, of targeting her son out of dislike. William countered, "This wasn't personal. It was about protecting the family." The room fractured under the weight of truth and denial, but the real explosion was still to come. The Taste of Britain Gala opened with all the grandeur expected of a royal event. Red carpets rolled out, gold-trimmed menus gleamed, and photographers lined the entrance. The atmosphere buzzed with celebration. Tom stood near the stage, looking sharper than ever, his cufflinks gleaming under the lights. He was ready, his speech rehearsed, his jokes polished, his charm dialed up. For him, this was the moment to reclaim his reputation, but William had other plans. As Tom finished his speech and stepped back to polite applause, William walked forward. No smile, no script, just calm focus and a USB drive in his hand. He spoke firmly. "Before we continue, there's something important we need to address." The room fell silent. A screen lit up behind him. Then Tom's voice filled the hall. "You'll have it by the weekend. Guaranteed. No one else knows. The price is as agreed." Gasps filled the air. Guests exchanged shocked looks. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. Tom's face went pale as the words replayed for all to hear. William turned to him and asked, "Do you deny this is your voice?" Silence. The damage was done. The gala dissolved into chaos. Guests murmured, reporters rushed to file stories, and staff tried desperately to restore order. Camilla leapt to her feet, insisting this wasn't the place for such accusations. But William held firm. It already happened in this place. Backstage, the fallout deepened. Camilla confronted Charles, furious. "You're letting him be thrown to the wolves," she snapped. But Charles, drained and weary, responded simply, "Tom was the wolf." There were no more arguments. The truth hung in the air, undeniable. 2 days later, the palace released a statement. Short, direct, and final. Tom Parker would no longer be involved in any royal activities. His privileges were revoked, his name removed from records, his badge disabled. Inside the palace, his desk was cleared by noon. By evening, it was as though he had never been part of it at all. Tom left quietly, dressed in black, suitcase in hand. Reporters swarmed him with questions, cameras flashing. "Did you leak the files? Did the Queen know?" He said nothing. He simply stepped into a waiting car and disappeared into the city. Camilla didn't join him. Instead, she stood at a palace window, watching from behind glass, a cup of tea untouched in her hand. Silent, motionless, carrying the weight of everything that had unfolded. Days later, the royal family appeared on the palace balcony. Charles stood tall, William by his side, waving to cheering crowds below. Cameras captured the moment, broadcasting an image of unity and strength. But one person was missing, Camilla. Her absence spoke volumes, even if no words were said. The image may have looked like victory for William, but behind it lingered a question. Had he truly protected the family, or had he driven an even deeper fracture into it? The cheers of the crowd masked the silence inside the palace. A silence filled with unanswered questions, strained trust, and the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same again. And so the story closes not with celebration, but with questions. Was William right to expose Tom in public, or should this have been handled quietly, behind closed doors? Did he save the family from greater scandal, or did he tear it apart from within? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if this story left you shocked, wait until you see what's coming next. Click on the next video, because the royal world always has another twist waiting.